culture as a way of explaining anything today on this continent, because what I see are what I call cultures of impunity. Cultures of impunity that colonization represented. Because if you remember, colonization is about taking away your sovereignty, and the colonizers did whatever they wanted. And so they laid out these institutions that were not responsive to the colonized. And as a result of it, today on this continent, we have all sorts of cultures of impunity from the top down. And men now have this notion that their families are their properties, and they can do however they want, whatever they will, and then they want to couch it in the name of culture. And we must never accept that. Nobody's culture. Their families are no doubt about it. So maybe it's time for us to be emphasizing the pathology called the modern man. Because I don't know why when you think of modern, it's women you associate it with. When part of what has happened as a result of colonization on this continent is that men have garnered all sorts of resources that were not even traditionally in the hands of men or women. These were collectively owned things, but now one man will take it and take it for himself. So maybe we need to turn the tables and talk about modern man. And the modern man is a pathology, and I cannot emphasize that.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a new day on Focus on Liberia. My name is Priscilla Nyenator, and I'm here so that we can be asking ourselves some questions. Is gender equality organic? That's what is going to be. The question that's going to be guiding our discussion today. Remember, we say, we ask and talk on a new day, questioning our beliefs. Like, why do we think or believe in a certain way? Hoping that our conversations lead to a shift in our mindset and attitudes towards women and girls. So it's a new day. Welcome and thank you for joining me. The clip that I played briefly before at the beginning is distinguished Africanist Dr. Oyeroke or Yerome. And we try to invite her to talk to us. Dr. Oyeroke Oyerwome, that was her beginning with us. So we're looking at history today. We're looking into history today because we believe that history matters. But first, let's go through some statistics here. on domestic violence. The New York Times, February 4th, 2015, reported that a felony domestic violence conviction is the single greatest predictor of future violent crime against men. Bloomberg News Analysis 2014 to 2019 reported that 60% of mass shootings are an act of domestic violence or committed by domestic abusers. And this is from 2014 to 2019. They did this analysis and reported that 60% of mass shooting an act of domestic violence or committed by domestic violence abusers. So 60%, can you imagine? These are people who abuse their spouses at home. Maybe all of those things don't make the news, but that's the reality. More than 50% of women killed by intimate partners are killed with guns. More than 50% of women killed by intimate partners are killed with guns. This is every time CDC. 65% for Black women, 75% for Indigenous women. 65% for Black women, 75% for Indigenous women. And according to NCADV, an abuser's access to a firearm increases the risk of a woman's murdered by up to 1,000%. This gun regulation thing that people are playing with around here. Anybody can own a gun, including people who are abusers. They've been reported of abusing their spouses. Most of them, police will go to their homes and go back. Police will go to their homes and go back. These people continue to have access to guns. According to NCADV, an abuser's access to firearm increases the risk of a woman's murder by up to 1,000%. Violence Policy Center reports that 92% of women killed by intimate partners in murder suicide are killed with a gun. 92% of women killed by intimate partners in murder suicide are killed with a gun. So you decide to kill yourself, but then you say you will kill the woman. Like, if I can't have you, you can't live. But then at the same time, after I kill you, I'm not going to go through the consequences of maybe facing the law. So I'm just going to take my life. Clifford's Law Center reports that every 14 hours, an American woman is shot dead by an intimate partner. These are some of the things that don't make the news. Clifford Law Center reports that every 14 hours, an American woman is shot dead by an intimate partner. Department of Justice 15 to 16 report domestic dispute calls make up for 41% of fatal calls for police. 41%. That is the most, according to police, that is the most dangerous calls that police make. Domestic dispute calls. 41% of police fatal calls for police. Police have been shot dead because they go to a home and a man feel, I'm beating my property, I'm abusing my property. Why are you here to intervene? Because the mindset is that there whatever in the household, human beings are the thing, are the property, the belongings, the spouses, and sometimes the children. And so reports said for police, domestic violence calls are the single most dangerous cause that they respond to. So women are victims of wife beating violent men and sadly enforcement officers too. Um, and U.S. crime reports suggest that about 1 in 5 homicide victims are killed by intimate partner. This report I got from Jon Stewart on broadcast on Apple TV. Subscribe to Apple TV and follow Jon Stewart. So the reason it's easy for me to be able to, or for us to have access to this report, is because the information and data is out there. But we know in other parts of the world, like I'm going to zero in on my home country, Liberia. The data is not available But we know these things happen. In fact, GBV is at an alarming rate in Liberia, and it's a crisis situation. Uh, we used to advocate for victims and survivors, and stay advocate against GBV. Mm. For those of us who do this line of work, some of us can attest that it can be depressing. Sometimes when you keep, working against something, and then there are worst cases coming up, reading worst cases of abuse, exploitation, disenfranchisement of women and girls, and then you begin to wonder, for some of us who like to question. So I started to wonder why these things are the way things are, and I'm sure there are people who have the same mindset, because for some of us, for me, have a strong sense of fairness. And so it's like, uh why is this it's okay to be a part of the solution, but then it came a point where I was like, it's like you keep treating the symptoms and the signs. But you know, especially when I came across uh a quote attributed to Desmond Tutu that said, and I quote, there comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. I read it again. There comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. So I had an epiphany moment, and I went like, yeah, this is what I need to do. Like, why, we are treating these cases, this situation. You look around us, women are not allowed in spaces. I mean, men dominate, the dominant culture is patriarchy. Most people, if you're not a male, you're a woman, you gender non-conforming or non-binary, you don't have the same access that straight males have. When it comes to politics, it comes to religion, women can preach, or women cannot share space with men in a mosque because something. I just all of these different obstacles, and that put women and other non-male humans, I like to refer to people who are not male as non-male humans, at a disadvantage, and with men having much more advantage in life. Thus, I started looking into the way, looking into why of the level of inequality between men and everyone else in the world, women, girls, gender non-conforming, gender non-binary humans. So as I continue to study, the reason I concluded is because we have conditioned men that they own the world, and that everyone else who is not men in it belong to them. You know, we've taught men that yeah, the world is for them. They alone know best. They alone know well. We taught the lie. We taught this lie through religions, uh through pseudoscience, politics, and by several other means. And that men and boys are taught that they're supposed to be obeyed and be respected by everyone else who is not male. uh, so men get violent and beat or kill their partners because they've been told that women should not refuse whatever they say to them. Uh, Men rape, sexually harass women and girls at work and school, and catcall women and girls in the street, and get mad when you say that you don't like it, because in men's mind, you're supposed to feel flattered when they catcalling you in the street, because men have been told that they own everything and everyone else. Women and girls exist as their how the Bible puts it, helpmate. So women and girls exist to help men get maybe sexually released whenever men and boys feel honey. And any woman or girl who refuses or rejects that should be beaten or raped to be put in her place. Since she doesn't understand that they exist, women and girls exist to assist men live in dominion on the earth, including meeting their sexual needs. You know, I may be sounding harsh or exaggerated, but that is the bottom line, which is a mindset of entitlement. A mindset of entitlement, because all of these different instruments and structures of society of our world have conditioned men that they are the real human. Everyone else, our existence evolve around men, making the world good for men, to have whatever they can, because they are superior, they are above. Bibles People say they are the head. I don't understand that one. But so it is a mindset of entitlement. And this is the mindset that a new day is working to reprogram. We're reprogramming to a mindset of mutual respect and decency based on the truth that no God gave man power, that we are all equal, even though men present God as men, as in the image of man, that God is a male God. So the male friend God gave them authority over everyone else to do whatever they feel. But no, a new day is reprogramming, is inviting us to interrogate so that we can be able to reprogram our minds, our mindset, and have a mindset of mutual respect and decency on the truth that no God gave men power, that we are equal, we build differently, we look differently. Yes, just imagine if a white person or white people, that is the same mindset, that we superior based on our race, and they use the Bible, they use all kind of the same pseudo signs they use to make their point, to support the lie that white person or white people are superior than people of color, or and all of that. And with time, that mindset has been moved away from, even though the remnant is left and we experience that through racism, but it's the same mindset that is being on gender structure and all of that. So no, we look differently, we build differently, yet we are all equal human beings who coexist, having who should have equal opportunities and equal access to services, because we all pay taxes, especially when it comes to political participation. We don't pay taxes based on gender, like if I went in a store or if I'm paying for something or at my place of work. So we all should accommodate, support, help, assist each other. This is what a new day is about. So today conversation, we're going to be asking, we're going to be interrogating, we're going to be examining, is gender organic? Because the disparity in our human history between men and every other person is not organic. It has a history of men resisting sharing spaces and creating laws, policies, and cultures and values by setting the agenda and shutting out other voices and narratives that are not male. I'm getting ahead of myself now, so let me get back to the script. How did we get here? How did we get here? Uh, Here's a quote by George Owen. He says, "Who controls the present controls the past. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. And who controls the past will control the future." Uh, so he was in his novel of 1949 and 1984, describing a dysfunctional future where citizens are manipulated by a single political party. Orange writing indicates when information was being controlled by a minority of people, pointing out the need for us to interrogate the sources of information we receive and accept. This is why we always encourage us. Let's interrogate the source of the information we receive and accept. Owen is said to have made the following observation: for those in power who perpetuate our dominance by misrepresenting the facts of history. This brings us to a few slides that I want to share with us. So stay with me. Let's get into this slideshow, and then we will discuss um, scientific racism. Um, and this is me calling on you, encouraging you to get these books. Let's get in the habit of reading, searching information. So, for ages, people in power misuse biology, according to this book, the author, as a way to justify bigotry. Calling something natural conceals how it actually um, the result of specific political choices. So, in the 19th century, some of the most distinguished white scientists in the United States argue that the enslavement of Black people was a natural order of the universe. It is important to learn this history so that we can no longer allow science to be misused in the service of one group of people. Again, let's learn to interrogate those things. I'm trying to make this thing big so that we can be able to um, um, you know scan through as I explain them. So ethnology was a scientific field based on the idea that the physical body revealed the intellectual, moral, and political capacity of its own and those of his or her race right large. Uh, and that they will make measurements and assessment of Black bodies to argue that Black people were not fit for self-governance. So in the 1830s and in the 1840s, ethnologists use observations of bodily features like skull, hair, and skin. And after the Civil War, they also included beards and breasts as a part of their analysis. I'm going to go through the slides and then I'm going to just explain from my notes so that we can have the time to go through all of them. Yeah, they said that the bodies of male Caucasians were more suited for intellectual pursuit. It was to justify the captivity of Black people. So Cartwright argued that other Black men were submissive boys, regardless of race, who nonetheless performed the labor of strongest other men. So in his research, he argued that if treated kindly with their basic material needs met, enslaved Black people will have no desire to run away. These are the kind of scientific work these people were putting out. Because their biology determined their submissive position. So, and then white scientists argue that the stoop skeletons of Black people were naturally designed for toiling in the field. Again, I'm just going to hurry to go through there and then so that we can have time to talk. So they use these to deny Black people from having a right to vote. Van Edry also argued that Black women's bodies were not suited for the cultural expectations of womanhood and instead were better suited to the rigors of domestic service. Um, I mean, just so that this is review, but just so that you can be able to get the books, I'm going to put the name of the books up. Get the books, and check them out. Get these books and check them out. I'm going backward, and I thought I was going forward. Yeah. So they were using bodies. They said white men had greater amount of body hair. It was emblematic of the beauty, and then Black people were more closer to ape, and that's why Black people were primitive. So Black intellectual critique, ethnology, call for racial justice in 1854 speech, Frederick Douglass argued that this practice was fundamentally flawed, based and rife with racial double standard. Black intellectuals and scientists have continued to debunk racist pseudoscience ever since. To learn more about Black intellectual resisted 19th century race science, check out Figurative Science. Check out the book Figurative Science. So the images that I just show you, um, the credits go to the following groups. Image credit go to this whole lot of group of people that put this work together. But one thing I forgot to announce to us is that so this review is mainly done by Alok. I wrote them, inviting them on this platform. Hopefully, they're on a tour going around the world. So hopefully, we get them to come on to talk to us. So yeah, but I'm going to share the information. You can follow Alok them on Goodread and to find out what they're reading. Now, this other book by Cynthia Rosette, The Sexy History of Biological Sex, The Sexual Science, Cynthia Igor Rosette. Also check it out. Uh, um, also check it out. It's just exposing the same kind of some of the ridiculous things these people say. So this is talking about non conforming, non I mean gender non conforming people. Um, to erase them, this group of people weaponize the idea of biological sex. They argue that trans women are not women because they are incapable of giving birth. So they use biological sex to define who a woman is. Biological sex, a framework that was created by white male scientists in the 19th century, specifically to justify discrimination against white women and Black people, indigenous people, and people of color. These are the people that created hierarchy and placed white men above everyone else, and then white women underneath white men above everyone else. So that's how they arrange people on the human tender. Yale historian Dr. Russell argued that when white women organized for rights in the 19th century, European scientists responded with a detailed examination of the differences between men and women that justified a differing social role. So when the white women now started to say, no, we want to be able to work, want to be able to go out of the home, they started the suffrage movement, an idea that actually even originated from Black women. But then white women decided they would take over, and then they sidelined Black women. So when they started to demand their rights, European scientists just came up with all these pseudoscience about how women are different from men in order to be able to justify women staying at home. For these scientists, issues of race and sex were one in the same. They focused specifically on white women because they thought that the lesser people of Asia and Africa were dispensable. Um, so after Darwin's theory of evolution, white male scientists doubled down on their efforts to deny white women an equal role in society, inserting white women and people of color between themselves. So they went ahead and said, like I just explained, uh, white men are the highest, are the superior, are the real human being, and then white women are, yeah, second to white men, and then people of color, including Black, Asian, everyone else, they are close to the ape. So we were used as buffer between white men and apes during the evolution period. So check out the book. They argue that women were inherently different from men in their anatomy, physiology, temperament, and intellect, and that white women lagged behind men. much as primitive people lagged behind Europeans. So that these are some of the mindset that inform the pay rates up to recently in this country, where white men are paid the highest, beyond white men, white women are paid higher than people of color. Black women are the least paid. Uh, Black men are paid higher than. So the fact that we do not question these things just because we've been given little, we have been given just little, we've been given just little privilege, little candy, and we don't question it. And I'm talking to my, black men, black brothers, black men. Um, when we don't question that, why is social structure set up like this? Well, we embrace that, oh, we're higher than women. No, it's the white man who set this up, but he made himself higher than you. Check out pay rates. It might have changed now completely. Uh, but I know the last time I checked, white men were making higher either per dollar or more than any other person, and white women much more than others. But these are the kind of mindset that inform these decisions that we continue to our lives are impacted by or affected by. So he argued that white women's score resemble black people's score more than those of white men. So this was when they were justifying that women stay home, when they wanted to shut up white women that were advocating for the right for suffrage. I'll come to your comments. Thank you for being here with me. So scientists define woman who has the ability to reproduce, arguing that women's pelvises were proof of the promise of capable maternity, and describing women as naturally having less sexual desire than men. While women's fundamental essence was defined as being a reproductive racial conduit. Canadian scientist Grant Allen argued that white women were the sex sacrifice for reproductive necessity. If white women deviated from this role as reproducing agents, they were pathologized as criminal, unsexed, ugly, and as black or people of color. Social Darwinists and Herbert Spencer argued that confining women at home and preventing them from working was the touchstone of high civilization. Unlike indigenous and black communities where women worked, scientists believed that white women couldn't receive an education or work because they would lose vital energy that were reserved for reproduction. Ella Van der Walkers called this the penalty of sex, and Albert Spencer called it the physical tax which reproduction necessitates. European male scientists concluded that the primary role for women was to be mothers, and that she had no other role. European scientists leveraged the rhetoric of biology to naturalize discrimination against women. This wasn't legitimate science based on reliable data. Instead, it was often discussed in their research as common knowledge. By defining women's role, being, and purpose as reproductive, they were able to justify denying women's suffrage and women's mobility as a law of nature, not the result of political choice. That was why they were using that. Unfortunately, centuries later, people continue to use the rhetoric of science, not the reality of science, to justify discrimination against gender non-binary people and gender non-conforming people. A few minutes. I will get to your comments. Let me just finish this slide, please. So it's not science to define womanhood solely by genitalia and reproduction. It's sexism. Womanhood is far more complex and expensive than the ability to give birth. So this is um and it stands from non-conforming, non-binary human beings. Some called refer to them as trans. How men define nature to oppress women. Similar thing. So I'm trying not to go through them. Um, Stanford historian Dr. Londa Schieberger argued that there was no empirical reason for the name murmur, that instead, so there was this scientist Linus who came up with that to pay homage to women maternal breast as the part of a coordinated effort to undermine women's public power and attach new value to women's on domestic roles. The scientists' fascination with the female breast helped to reinforce the sexual division of labor in European society by emphasizing how natural it was for females to rear their own children. Mm, So the politicized breast to locate the power of women in nurturing the future sons of the state. But before, women had previously occupied, uh, um, they had expertise like midwifery and medicine. So, with the dawn of enlightenment, men began to use the rhetoric of nature to justify discrimination against women. In 1790, British naturalist William Smellie argued that social hierarchies came from natural hierarchies independently of political institutions, and that nature herself has formed uh, the human species into chains and ranks. Male scientists argue that the natural exclusive role for women in society was motherhood. French physician Julien Joseph Virat argued that the word female derived from fetus because women's natural destination was to generate life, to give birth. In the 18th and 19th century, scientific focus on sex was almost exclusively about white women. This is because women were taught to shape racial characteristics, the shape of nose, lips, and skull, hair texture, and skin color. German physician Joan believed that black features were different because babies' hair, listen to the very racist reasoning, babies' hair pounded against their mother's back as they worked and flattened their facial features because black women used to work. So German physician Joan believed that black features were different because babies' hairs pounded against their mother's back as they worked and flattened their facial features. Accordingly, white women were important in so much as their behavior different directly impacted the status of their feature. This one, Blumenberg divided the world into five major races. One of the first racial classification, he labeled the Caucasians called female and did not mention sex for the other four scores. He selected the Georgian score as representative of the white race because he believed its great beauty revealed Caucasian as the architect from which all other races had degenerated. So this history illustrates the great lengths European men took to define nature in a way that allowed them to absorb themselves of culpability. They weren't disenfranchising women in their mind and people of color. No, they were just doing what nature entailed. We should always be skeptical of people using the rhetoric of nature to justify discrimination. Sexism is not science. And I'm going to now go to Dr. The, who began our broadcast. She was talking about modern male pathology. She was talking about Dr. Oyeruke Oyewumi. Hopefully, she comes to talk to us. She wrote this book, The Invention of Women, A Colonial History of Gender. The Invention of Women, A Colonial History of Gender. Please get a copy. Get a copy on Amazon. Get a copy on Amazon. Let me move this forward so that we can be able to see it. People who challenge gender norms are often dismissed as prioritizing theory over reality. This is historically incorrect. The reality is that peoples across the world have long lived outside of the Western gender binary system. They were and continue to be forcibly assimilated into the Western gender as a tactic of colonization. In her work, Nigerian scholar Dr. Oyeruke Oyewumi draws from the history of her indigenous Yoruba culture to show how the category woman did not exist in Yoruba land prior to European colonization. She critiques how the West maintains the fictions that one, gender categories are universal, two, that gender is a fundamental organizing principle in all societies, three, that there is a universal category of woman, four, that the category of woman exists pre-culture, fixed in time and placed in opposition to the category of men. This was not the case in Yoruba society, where the primary feature of social hierarchy was age, not gender. Get that and read it. Yoruba people acknowledged distinct reproductive roles without using them to establish social hierarchy and distribute power. The category of women only emerged from the policies and practices of the newly imposed European state. It wasn't just that women were disenfranchised by the law, is that the very categories of women and men defined by anatomy and hierarchy were instituted by the colonial authority. She argued that the creation of women as a category was one of the very his sorry, I have it in my notes here. But yeah, that is just review. Check out the book and then make your own review and your own analysis. So historically, gender neutral gods were replaced with male gods when these Europeans, started to mix with our people on the continent through trade, and then later, when they took over. Despite the fact that non-men had long participated in political and public life, the new colonial authority only recognized male leaders and refused to acknowledge the existence of female chiefs, effectively excluding women from all colonial state structures. Yoruba people were forcibly assimilated into Western patriarchy, which regulated marriage, divorce, and pregnancy, and legally binding women as second class to their male counterpart. Get these books. Get these books and check them out for yourself. Women were denied access to education and therefore the ability to negotiate a modern world, leading to men gaining more wealth, status, and leadership roles over them and worsening gender inequality. Because the colonial state defined men as breadwinners, women were discriminated against in a taxation system, leading to even more economic dependence and instability. A completely new public sphere was created exclusively for men, a feature that became the hallmark and symbol of colonial progress. The British later used this newly established gender inequality to justify their presence, using the imperialist narrative that they are protecting Native women from Native men. where these people coexisted. If y'all can remember, our people in some parts of the continent, people go about bare chested, girls go about, women go about. How many accounts of history have we come across or heard where there were high increase in sexual violence and sexual abuse? These people respected their existence among themselves. Women, and there are still some parts of the continent, people still go bare chested. Women go about with their breasts and whatever, you know. And these British people come and say they're trying to protecting native women from native men. Women argued that African women were thrown into the very bottom of a history that was not theirs. The unenviable position of European women became theirs by imposition, even as European women were lifted over Africans because their race was privileged. The invention of womanhood in Yoruba society was instrumental in establishing the subordination of people who had previously exercised equal humanity and equal power. Now, I said I wanted us to look at, where does this come from? So you see why I use the quote of George Orwell that who controls the present controls the past, and who controls the past controls the future. And that people in power perpetuate their dominance by misrepresenting the facts of history. So we need to interrogate the sources of information we receive and accept. We believe that the subjugation of women, disenfranchisement of women is African tradition, is culture. That's what she was saying at the beginning when you met, uh, when we started this program. Is African culture really? So I just told us about books to check out. These reviews, the slides that I use for this slideshow is on our look page. You can check them out. You can check out. I'm going to share the link to our look page. You can check them out. So amazing, brilliant, non-conforming, non-gender human being. I sent them an email hoping that they will respond and come to talk to us on a new day. But I just wanted to show us the racist mindset of people, to let you know that that's the same way people have sexist and misogynistic mindset to come up with history. For instance, the book called The Nature's Body, Gender in the Making of Modern Science by Dr. Londa Skimbinger, she said, by celebrating sexuality in plants, and this is a book that you need to check out. The mind has no sex, does it? She concentrated on 17th and 18th century European development in taxonomy and physical anthropology to show how the European male became the prototype of the human race, how women were reduced to a subset noted only for sexual differences, and how people of color were placed at inferior levels of the great chain of being, on par with apes. On par with apes. We were the buffer between white men and apes. Most shocking were the scholars concerned with female genitalia and sexual characteristics. The ideal breast was the pointed hemisphere of the European female. So that was the standard for Caucasian women to set the standard for beauty, hence the name Caucasian for the white race. Pendulum breasts were inferior and African. So were enlarged labia. So it appears that the collectors and dissectors had a field day measuring vaginal angles and clitoral lengths in attributing massive labia to various African females, including the Nyenator Venus they brought to Europe for studies. They had a really, I don't want to say messed up mindset, but I'm not sure any better word. Someone can help me. But I'm sharing all of this so again we can question some of the things today that we believe and hold to be true. Why were things done certain way? Why are things certain way today? Who put them in place? Who history are we reading? Dr. Achebe, I wrote her. She responded, I'm so glad she'll come on to talk to us on a new day. She asks, who history are we reading? Who archive are we getting them from? So, to learn that the dawn of modern science was equally clouded by politics, prejudice, it wouldn't surprise, shouldn't surprise us, even though it's disheartening. But we're glad that we have people writing at this biased history and science to be able to renew our mind about each other, about people who are placed on a lower social level of our existence. Why do we see white men as superior? Then ask two, why do we see women as inferior and men as superior? I will share the title of the books. You can get them on Amazon or you can follow Alop for recommendations on Goodreads. So, my people, this is one way that the patriarchy has sustained through the distorted representation of history and science. Has been sustained. This is one way that the patriarchy has been sustained through the distorted representation of history and science and religion, and for through Christianity. So please join us in our New Day community or New Day Facebook, where we carry our Bible study, we look at Bible study and church history. The patriarchy has securely monopolized male ascendancy by marginalizing, upmating, and devaluing women's accomplishments throughout history. One time, Liberian historian Dr. Patrick Burroughs, or he studied history, he wrote these really great books also that you need to check out. And in one of his books to me that I bought, he said, Priscilla, the rope you ignore will be used to tie you. He said it's a verb proverb, the vibe from the vibe group from Liberia. The rope you ignore will be used to tie you. Do not ignore your history. He wrote me, do not ignore your history, because our bother and started reaching out to historians and people who study history. What is our culture? When people keep telling some of us, you African woman, or they are human right, what you talking about? You are women right, you talking about you African woman, or do we believe that the equality of women and men is not an African culture? Another great African who passed in recent years, Kenyan Nobel Prize laureate and environmentalist Wangari, she said, you cannot enslave a mind that knows itself, that values itself, that understands itself. You cannot enslave a mind that knows itself. You cannot enslave a mind that values itself. You cannot enslave a mind that understands itself. The truth is, women played very significant roles in human development. throughout history, whether or not the minimization and in most cases erasure of their contribution are intentional or unintentional. We are privileged to be alive in this time of deconstruction of androcentric history and a period of reconstruction of full and inclusive and more accurate history. A new day is a platform that inviting us. Today we are alive and in a period of reconstructing full and inclusive and accurate history. A sister on this platform called Family has dedicated and devoted her time to share with us, to provide us alternative history from the African perspective. It behooves us to know, to find out who history are we reading? Why do we think certain way? Why do we believe certain way? In pre-colonial Africa, this is from Christine Sadi, Women in Pre-Colonial Africa, from Oxford.com, Oxford Research Encyclopedia. She summarizes, in pre-colonial Africa, relations between women and men were varied, changing and culturally specific, yet there were some common themes. Most African societies attempted to maintain forms of heterarchy, which meant they often created several centers of authority and aspired to establish communities where gender relations between women and men were equitable. Additionally, throughout history, most Africans determine status by the amount of labor in a group or individual could control. And in a historically underpopulated continent, this meant that motherhood and giving birth to children was very important. The result is that women, as both biological and social mothers and as grandmothers, were highly respected throughout the history of the continent. The earliest ancestors of modern humans originated in Africa, and so the history of women starts earlier in Africa than anywhere else, probably around 200,000 BCE. Anthropologists of early humanity have proposed that the most successful human families in the earliest eras were based on family units that situated grandmothers at the center of family structure found in many parts of Africa in the early 21st century. Around 5,500 years ago, a small group of Bantu speaking people migrated from West Africa and over time populated large portions of Africa below the Sahara Desert. So, hierarchy and gender equity were features of most Bantu speaking societies. So what she's saying here that gender equity was a feature of our people. Their worldviews were manifested in the matrilineal social structure that most Bantu society preferred until recent history. Even the earliest empires in Africa, Nubia and Egypt, were organized matrilineally. The West African Sahara empires from 700 CE were also matrilineal, and there is a long history of Muslim, on and on and on and on and on. Who history are we reading? And then when we claim what isn't ours. Oh, you African woman, you African woman, we're giving credit to the very people who, from all indications now, as research continue to show, that introduce control of others. They went to your continent, they remove your system, they erase your system, they introduce their own, and they back it up with pseudo science and the Bible. Yeah, God say that's how it's made. God say white man is superior, white man is more intelligent, white man should rule. God agree with slavery. And yes, science say the black human being skull is shaped like the white person in Westmarker. And the same thing with gender. We'll continue to argue. African culture to subjugate women, to remove women, to make women invisible, to disappear women, to tell women to be silent. The women of ancient Africa led diverse yet decisive roles in their communities. We have traced the complementary practices and achievement of women in ancient Africa to understand how their spiritual, political, and economic roles shaped society and culture long ago. Check the A New Day Facebook page. Again, for the past few years, we've been doing that. Learning about this development is essential for honoring the past of African women and restoring them to their dignified place in the annals of world history. It is also important to learn the history of African women so as to address the misperception that it's African culture to subordinate women. Dr. Boris wrote me in one of his books again. He said, Priscilla, to journey to a better future must begin with knowledge of the past. I decided today for us to look into history a little bit so that we can question why we believe this. So we've been digging into ancient African history in our New Day community. And again, since Carl family has been providing us free history lessons from the African perspective on this platform, Focus on Liberia. Join on Saturday. Hear the amazing exploits of your ancestors, our, particularly how they built the country Liberia. To contribute to redressing the distortion of history from the biblical and non-biblical perspective, we've been reconstructing Bible stories in a New Day community. Feel free, please. I cannot emphasize it enough. There are archives of presentations of historical contribution of women to the development of our world and rich biblical analysis of context behind your Bible verses to enhance your understanding of the Bible. Just send a friend or request. I will allow you in the community. And then you check out our presentations. So, folks, the disparity in our human history, including race inequality, gender inequality, like other vices, are not organic. Human beings are not born unequal. We learn these things as we grow in the world. In the same way we can learn these things, we can unlearn them. It's a new day. Let's see what we have here. I hope not to miss anything at work but watching. Thanks, Emmanuel Johnson. Everybody seems like a great book. I don't know which one of the books he's talking about, but thank you. Mr. Jerome Gaiman say great resources of information. Thanks for the research. Thank you, sir, for being on and listening. Somebody says exactly those genders suggestions were even introduced with the spread of Islam from the Arab world in North America. Yeah, through a lot of different means, my brother. Through a lot of different means. This one looks like it seems to be too long. But anyway, let me see. Stanley Thomas say, I think the religious leaders are to because they presented God as a male and that female are to be submissive to the male. I am a strong member of the Southern Baptist Church. Okay. And we continue to hold the views that God does not want female to preach exactly. I've taught about the Southern Baptist in a new day for some years now. So thank you to preach and to be a pastor over a church. Remember that even in this great country, women were not allowed to vote and even hold certain positions here. In other cultures, it is even worse. For example, in the Bible, the religious leaders brought a woman. Um, oh, I think then it got caught up. I didn't get up. So yeah, I agree with you. It was a rude awakening, cultural shock for me, when I started volunteering. And actually I did a course in domestic violence advocacy for 1 year. And then because it was scholarship, so I had to serve for a year. And the cases assigned to me, and the kind of stories hearing, and be like, oh my word, just because for confidentiality, not allowed to share. But I mean, it's going to blow your mind to be like, you telling me like right here, when we've been told that, you know it's us who are, I mean, it's not us against them. I don't mean to make it sound like that, but it just, I'm saying all of this to say, let's interrogate, let's visit where this kind of mindset then come from. Um, know yourself so that somebody cannot define you. Um, and even if it was our history, uh, African tradition, do we want to? Do they serve us over time? We've seen them. uh, but from all indications from studies that I've been doing, it's not our tradition. So it's great to know that. But I also argue, if it was our tradition, it is our tradition. I mean, that's why we evolve as humans. You let things go that don't serve you good anymore and incorporate new ones. So, yeah, like someone said, in this country, women never used to vote before, but now women can, because they learn to, l- let go of some things that didn't serve them. Like, I don't understand how it makes sense for us to all be a part of the population, and then 50% of them do not vote. 50% make the decision, and everybody pay taxes. I mean, how do you flourish, and how do you refer to yourself as a democracy when you see democracy is for the people, by the people, and all people are equal? But then at the same time, they say, I mean, it's just, so let's question these things. Yeah, yeah. Uh, um, in the United States, it was illegal for women to ride a horse and bikes. Yeah, it was illegal for women to even. I mean, I can go to the period for us to go through another presentation. Women used to be arrested just for being women, for walking alone in this place where today we're pointing at people in Saudi Arabia and other places. But you see, because as human beings, we evolve. We evolve. So that's why our new day is. We're wanting a new day where we will have a new mindset and attitude. Um, if we're going to be using, it's our tradition to hold on certain belief system that are not serving us right. Do we want to continue to do that? How has the mindset like that benefited us? Empress 91 say it's important that women also have equal footing, especially when it comes to decreasing poverty in society. Yes, I agree with you, Empress 19. Studies show decreased poverty in society that have more equality. Thank you for studying. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They are more richer. Recently, I sent to someone. When talking about the richest country in the world and the happiest country in the world, and I was sharing with her, I think America come below countries like, let me see, quick. But yeah, I agree with you that equality gives. reduce poverty and decrease poverty in society, and gives a happy country, happy people, happy prosperous nation. So there was Aslan also. Let me see. I think it was Aslan also. But yeah, I recently shared some research with someone um on the same subject of the richest countries that are doing well because of gender equality. Everyone is treated equal, and the crime rate is just zero. You know, Hmm, I don't know. Sorry, I can't find it. But you can do a quick search. Some of this information, even though you have to subscribe to primary sources to get accurate information. But it just shows that if you're interested in something, how much effort you can put into it to get to know the truth for yourself, or you just want to be passing around and arguing based on what and regurgitating things that are not true. I'm trying to get to um comments before this end, and I can't seem to find a way to figure it out. But hey, this is it that I wanted to share with us, my people. Let's question ourselves, and then let's continue to engage our mindset. Why are women at the bottom today? Is this something that started from the beginning of the world? And when did the war start first? It started when Christianity borrowed from Judaism, and that was just 300 years ago. So what happened before 300 years ago? How did people exist? Oh no, no one was existing. Really? Yeah, it was just Adam and Eve. Okay. And then there and then there was another one that I wanted to share, but because of time, I didn't include in the presentation about before Eve, before the existence of Eve. Sorry, before the existence of Eve. So, how Africans live before the existence of Eve, like before the whole story of the Bible in the beginning, which came after we borrowed from the Sumerians. These were people who invented writing, and serialization started from them. So they existed far before yesterday. Somebody came up 300 years ago, and somebody came up and said, okay, we'll start the whole God business and Bible, and then just borrow the beginning story. The only thing they just change it and say in our own beginning that Adam and Eve was created. Um, the English people, then the Jewish people from the original language, they say, oh no, it was the gods. Elohim is plural for the gods created Adam, which is a Hebrew word meaning the soil or the earthling or the dirt, and then separated them. But the English come and tell, oh, no, it's a male named Adam that actually was created by one God, the main God, and then they took his side. The same effort to reduce women. But that one, the Bible talk is in the new. They come and then we will poke at these things that we believe to be true, whether they actually are true, and then there we can look at original manuscript and what the really meaning of the words that were misinterpreted, distorted in the English Bibles to propagate, to promote the patriarchy and the concept of women's subjugation or submissiveness. Thank you for being with me. Thank you. Okay, yeah, the happiest country. Please tell us which one was that exactly. Norway. I think it was okay. So Luxembourg was the richest in few years ago, and yeah, these four countries been on the top for the past few years. Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Uh, okay, America not claim Osmo. All right. But Iceland, Finland, yeah, these are serious places for gender equality. And so they're doing well. They're happy, they're prospering, they believe in gender equality. So the nations are doing much more well. The crime rate is almost like non-existent. Like Norway, I think there is a zero report for uh, homicide. We've gone. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, thank you for staying with me. It's a new day. We got to talk next Sunday. I didn't have a guest today, so I said, okay, we're going to hang out with the community and just talk again. All of these things that we learn, if we can learn them, we can unlearn them. It's up to us to open our mind. It's a new day. Have a new mindset. Interrogate. Don't stop learning. We shouldn't stop learning. We don't stop learning. Please, if you're choosing to play blind eye to all this good information that coming up and insist, no, this is what it is, then maybe we should be afraid of you. We should be afraid of you. Somebody says what gender equality looks like to you. So uh, I said it in passing, all of us will be seen as human beings. So we have equal access to, for instance, a girl should not be taken away from school just for the boy children to go to school. Girl should not be cooking, a girl child should not be cooking in the kitchen after school, and then her brother goes to play and then be told, oh, he's a boy child. Uh-uh. Or he's going to defend you against your husband tomorrow because he's your man. And even though you ordinate your brother, and he's going to defend you tomorrow to your husband. Why would I need defending to my husband? What is my husband going to be doing to me that I need to be defended? So yeah, so access to education, education should not be based on gender. Access to work, if you and I apply for a position, Alfred, I shouldn't be texted later to come and meet the guy who will say, oh, I'm the one who have the main saying in who they pick for this position, because these are experts and they rely on my expert opinion as a local person. I'm talking about an example with a UN agency. So I'm the one who will put for the name they will take. That is you as a girl, after you attended an interview and then you get a text message and I say, so come and spend the weekend with me in Habel and sleep with me. Otherwise, you're not going to get that. Or you ask the men or the guys who when you did the interview, and none of them say, no, I didn't get that kind of text message. So those are the kind of things standards should not be different uh, uh, based on gender for a job position or school. And like somebody said, like Southern Baptist, or for preaching, to be told that a woman cannot be a priest, like the Catholic people, she cannot be a priest before we talk about Pope. Always been male. So some of the information and news we hear when they say, and first female president, first female this. Why are we having first now? So this is to give you an idea that uh, um, people have been deliberately blocked from from having access to opportunities. Someone once said, I tell my daughters that the women, they're supposed to, that why I tell my daughter, you need to push yourself, the women need to push themselves, and then, and so I'm asking you, so you telling me now, for centuries, women just sat down and say, oh, we're not push ourselves. They're the one just embrace the disadvantaged position. No, in life, no. The systems that have been put in place. And that's why we were looking at some of the scientists and historians who they want to study against real and true scientific and objective ones that debunk them and say, no, this is not so. This report or this study was done, it was biased based on political reason, based on social reason, religious reason. So, I hope it gives you an idea. My gender should not disenfranchise me. All the kind of everyday, everyday microaggression aggression that women face. You know, example, I'm in a bus on a bus coming from Fendel, and then somebody gets off the bus, and then this guy sitting next to me. I mean, the person gets off from beside me, and then the guy sitting behind me put his feet on on a seat, on a bus, and I'm like, please, can you please put your shoes down? And then he ignores me and goes on 2 or 3 times. I ask, and then when I like, you need to put your shoes down, otherwise I will remove it. And then he jumps out and yelling about, you're tall, she a woman, oh, you a woman, oh, you're a woman. Oh." So, that's what I'm talking about. So first you dismiss me because maybe as a woman, I should take anything. Your shoes should be next to my dress. This is when I was in Liberia. I'm just sharing. Ah, so or step on me or walk on me. But this is the kind of perception that we've been socialized with. A woman can speak up. So maybe I was just supposed to be quiet because I'm a woman. Or I was thinking, okay, so I asked him, I said, so what does that mean? I should be embarrassed of being a woman? Is your mother ashamed of being a woman? So yeah, so those kind of exchanges. You get in the car, in a taxi, you see two guys walking together, they were having their own conversation, but then you go load the same way you, one at the other door, one at the other door. I'm talking about places like Liberia, and then they're talking across you. Okay. And the next time you see they coming to do it, and then you get and you say, no, you're getting a car, sit beside each other because I want to sit to the door. And they say, no, you're a woman, you're supposed to be in the middle because we're supposed to protect you. Protecting me from what? When accident is happening, will you throw yourself in my place if I was at the side where the truck was hitting that side? I mean, where do we get all of those ones? Meanwhile, those same guys will be in the bus with you, and then I don't know, Alfred, how long you left Liberia, what are you hearing? But I'm just saying, some of the day-to-day interaction we have, because we have certain mindset that we were brought away. Women, they're supposed to be invisible. They're not supposed to. I mean, they're just not supposed to have a. Okay, we get on the bus. There is only the driver. I mean, there is only the design seat, and the design seat is people get it. The car bus sits on it, but people get it when car is near her, and then sometimes someone will say, "No, I will sit on it." It's right at the entrance of the bus. Every time they move the bus door, you will feel like you're falling off. So those are the kind of times where a guy now will be fighting to sit all the way inside. I sat on a design scene and be like, okay, no man wants to protect me. I'll be sitting here by myself. So we know when we can preach those. I'm the man, I'm supposed to protect you. Those kind of we can put in those kind of things as God said, or I don't know, tradition says. So I hope it gave you an idea. Uh, yeah, so gender equality means a lot of things. To someone who is gender not conforming, it could mean, hey, I don't want to be confined to being a male or to being a female. I want to be able to express, my, because gender is a social construct. It should be fluid. So I should be able to express as a male, as a female today, and there shouldn't be certain characteristics ascribed to me based on my gender. Because I want multiple partner, I'm a woman, I can, but a male can without the kind of shaming that goes with being a woman doing. So gender equality just means a lot of all of those things. Well, economically, it means that we should have equal access to opportunities, to political participation, to job with our harassment, opportunity to jobs based on our qualifications, in our experiences, not based on because you're a gender. And it should also mean in a home. And lastly, quickly, Alfred, So in one of my communities, we're having conversation and we asked this pastor, will you, he said, oh, I'm all for gender equality. Okay, will you be okay for your wife to be a leader? He said, oh yeah, sure. I can support, will you support your wife leadership? He said, yeah, you can support my wife leadership. My wife is brilliant. She's smart. He talked about his wife's achievement, this and that. My wife is a leader to this place and that place. She was executive director. She was heading some, I think, and some fries chain or somewhere in another state. I mean, she reached to this corporate level, but in the home, God say I'm ahead. So she leaves her leadership. And I'm like, I don't understand how God will give her all the intellect, to make all this huge impact outside in the world. But now in the confine of a little home, automatically you becomes by basis of your gender. So you see how we need to be looking at some of those things. How can somebody claim that or God, because they share the same gender, makes him automatic leader, even though that man, even you, to get a job, to get a supervisory position outside of your home, you have to prove your competence. To even be team lead or supervisor over 2 people at your place of work or 6, you got to prove that. You got to earn it. But then in your home, you automatically become, because you have a penis and this God who is our father and you share similar gender. So he says, oh yeah, you get to be here over a grown adult woman like Priscilla who has her own experiences, has her own exposure, education level, and everything. You get to be her. You just automatically, whether you have experience as a spouse before or not, even if you did. So is that how really a home is successful? Or is it that 2 adults with experiences different or bringing from different family or bring their rich experiences in whatever educational level or income, whatever it is, even if it was in education, just experience, just life experience and how to do things, they bring it together and harness what they know and build a really strong partnership in a home and raise children if they want to with the same thing, and we reproduce that in the world. We'll see how amazing the world will be, because the gods are multiple, there are varieties of them, and so they created varieties, male, female, non-conforming, non-binary, all of us equally to impact the universe. Yeah, and make our world better. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you. I'm going to go now. It's a new day. We'll talk next Sunday. Thank you for staying with me, all of you. Goodbye.
I don't like culture as a way of explaining anything today on this continent, because what I see are what I call cultures of impunity. Cultures of impunity that colonization represented. Because if you remember, colonization is about taking away your sovereignty, and the colonizers did whatever they wanted. And so they laid out these institutions that were not responsive to the colonized. And as a result of it, today on this continent, we have all sorts of cultures of impunity from the top down. And men now have this notion that their families are their properties, and they can do however they want, whatever they will, and then they want to couch it in the name of culture. And we must never accept.
We all love you.